the Collective Whisper podcast with Simon K. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's show. I hope you're all good and enjoying all the shows so far. And this week we have another great guest for you. But before we get on to the guest, I'd just like to ask you to please follow and subscribe to our shows and keep giving us the love. And we keep giving you good guests and try to entertain you as much as we can. Okay, so this week's guest is Chesney Claire. Pop singer-songwriter Chesney Claire was born July 10th, 2001. Right after graduation in 2019, Chesney moved to Branson, Missouri to work and ultimately begin her music career. While in Branson, Chesney's talents caught the eye and ears of several Las Vegas producers and songwriters. In March of 2020, Chesney and her Momager, Hebert, found themselves moving across the country to Sin City, Las Vegas, in order to be closer to more industry professionals. Immediately upon moving to Vegas, Chesney provided vocals for 2 original songs that were recorded and released. Mid-2020 proved to be the perfect opportunity to write music. With 47 original songs under her belt, she flew to Orlando, Florida with a local Vegas producer and had her first original single, 15 Candles. By September of 2020, Chesney started making preparations to release her next single, Moving On, but industry awards poured in and demanded her attention. In 2020 alone, Chesney was nominated for an Independent Music Award for a Michael Jackson cover of Bad. She was also nominated for Best Upcoming Artist at the Las Vegas Music Awards, and she won Female Artist of the Year at Indie Star Radio in Hollywood, California. Chesney's single Hours was released February 1st, 2021, and Come Alive was properly released right after the pandemic in May of 2021. Chesney released Distracted in 2021. As of October 2021, Chesney has been nominated for 16 music industry awards and has become a top 5 charting artist. October 2021 has brought 2 worldwide songwriting awards, a coveted Josie Award nomination and a 2021 ISSA Gold win for Female Vocalist of the Year. In 2021, Chesney was a prestigious nominee for the 2021 Hollywood Music and Media Awards as an independent musician alongside huge names associated with Sony Pictures, Walt Disney and others, and continues her quest for music placement in feature films, documentaries and other media sources. Most recently, Chesney, at the age of 20, has just purchased Zeiss Records and she owns her own publishing company and works hard every day making new contacts and developing new business relationships. Okay, welcome to the show, Chesney Claire. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's lovely to meet you, and thank you for coming on our podcast. And you are at the moment in Las Vegas, no?
Yes, I live in Las Vegas.
And it's a bit earlier in the morning there. I mean, we're on European time here, so it's like 7 o'clock. But for you, it's early in the morning. So I hope you didn't have too late a night, and I hope you feel fresh.
I'm okay. I got musician's hours, but I'm still here.
Yeah, we as musicians sometimes we tend to work into the wee hours, as we say, and sometimes the next day you can pay for it. And you know, the thing I always said to people, it's not even about going out partying or drinking or doing whatever. It's just sometimes you're being very creative at 3 a.m. or an idea hits you and you're like, no, I want to get it done. And you're like, oh, you know, I don't care about time. And you just keep working. And then the next day you feel it.
Exactly. You don't want to put it off until tomorrow. And so you suffer for it tomorrow.
Yeah, of course. Are you kind of a night owl when it comes to being creative? Do you do a lot of your best work at night?
I actually would say that I do most of my work during the daytime. I do like my relaxing time in the evenings. But sometimes, I mean, if a creative idea comes to me, then I'll just run with it and I can be up in my studio until the wee hours of the night.
Yeah. It's, you know, nowadays with everybody being kind of goal orientated and very focused, and you have all these, you know, motivational speakers, and they're like, I go to bed, I get up at 4 a.m, but they don't tell you they go to bed at 9 maybe, so they still get a good sleep. And then the musicians who are up till 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning are like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do that, you know. But I think for a lot of musicians now, they're kind of tending to do more work in the daytime.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely feel that. I mean, especially for me, I do like my because I like to work all day because this is my like full-time job. So I do put in work all day, but I definitely will stay up and make some creative ideas.
Yeah, I actually saw something recently where I think it was Akon or one of the other rappers, they were talking about working with Eminem, and they said, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they said they would arrive at the studio at 6:30 in the evening, and they'd be like, "Hey, where's him? Is Eminem here?" And they'd be like, "He's gone home." And they're like, "What do you mean? He finishes at 6?" And they're like, "What do you mean he finishes at 6?" And they said, "He comes in at 9 and he finishes at 6 like a regular day. He treats it like a regular job." So he called, this rapper called up Eminem and he said, "I'm in the studio. Are you coming in?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll see you at 9 in the morning."
That's funny. That's funny. That's whenever you know you've made it, where you can be like, "Yeah, I'll see you later."
Yeah, some people have that, the musician's mindset, but then they also have the CEO of the top company where they're like, "I'm doing everything during the day and I'm leaving my evenings free," and so on, for other things. So Chesney, tell us, you are from Louisiana. So when did you make the move to Vegas?
I actually moved as soon as I graduated from my high school in Louisiana. I moved straight to Branson, Missouri. And I stayed there for about 6 months. And that was kind of just like a little place to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with my life, because I had already fallen in love with being on stage. I had fallen in love with making covers and singing for people. But whenever I moved to Branson, Missouri, I went to my first recording studio ever. And I recorded my 5 covers that I have released. And that's when I fell in love with being in the studio. So we lived there for about 6 months, got everything straight, got life figured out, and darted over here. We decided we were going to move over here, and we came within like a week. And we got here March 2020, right as soon as the pandemic started.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's go before we kind of get into what you're doing now as such. Let's go back a little bit. So in Louisiana, you were, you graduated from high school. What was your Bell City High School, wasn't it, or something like this? I had it written down. Yeah, and yeah, so in Bell City High School, I mean, as a teenager, were you one of these people who sang in front of the mirror with the hairbrush, or where did the whole kind of music and being a singer, where did that come from?
It definitely started at my grandparents. They pushed me into singing in the choir, the church choir, every Sunday. So I actually enjoyed doing that with them. I enjoyed like being able to sit by them and have that good time with them. But as I grew older and I was maybe like a sophomore in high school, there was tryouts for our show choir. And so our show choir is kind of like a little cover band. We don't do normal choir things. We just cover songs.
It's like a rock choir, kind of, is it?
Yeah, basically like School of Rock type thing. But there was a guitar player, bass, keys, and drums, and there was 4 singers, and we would go perform at casinos, and we performed at the mall, and that is really what set a fire under me. Like I just love performing in front of people, and like with my classmates around me, it just made it so comfy. Like my first times being on stage, and since I was 15, I've been performing in little country bars in Louisiana. I would perform country music because that's what everybody wanted. So I would perform the country music. And yeah, just got my start in high school with my grandparents and doing little gigs in Louisiana.
Yeah, and playing in those country bars, I mean, would you kind of go in and have a plan about, oh, I'm going to sing these songs, and then slowly discover people ask for other things?
Sometimes, I got in there one time and I was like, okay, I had a whole list of songs I was gonna sing. But then I felt out the room and I was like, okay, these people really want something country. So I sang Miranda Lambert for them and they loved it.
Wow, yeah.
You just got to fill out the room, think about what they would want. And I ended up changing my songs like last minute decision type thing because I just wanted to please the audience.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of a thing. I know in my experience playing like in cover bands or just playing solo acoustic kind of gigs in bars, you kind of, after a while, you have a plan, and you're like going to do these songs. And then, somebody goes, do you know this song? Do you know the song by whoever, and you're like, okay, maybe, but, and then you like write it down after the gig, and then you find after weeks and weeks of doing this, you have maybe a different set because you don't know what people want, and you think, oh yeah, they love these songs, but people can surprise you with their choices and everything, can't they?
Their requests, their crazy requests.
Yeah. And so would you say then, playing in those bars for you, and obviously, having played in the rock choir, do you think that kind of gave you an apprenticeship? It taught you a lot about performing and singing and even songwriting?
Sure. It did definitely teach me a lot about stage performance. It taught me a lot about how to just be confident and not nervous, because I was a very nervous child, especially going up on stage in front of people. That was just not my thing. And so having these classmates around me, being up there with me and doing the same thing I was doing, it was all just so easy. And it definitely led the way for me being on stage now. It definitely gives me confidence. Sometimes I just reflect back on those times and I'm like, that was so easy. That was so easy, and I did that when I was 15. I can do this now.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because I mean, for a lot of people, they learn their stagecraft, in those small bars, and they learn like things they have to be doing, and what works and what doesn't. And also, the whole thing about equipment, it's great, when if you can later on in life, be on a stage and you have sound people worrying about the sound and you don't have to worry about it. But at the beginning, everybody's there with the mic, like testing 1, 2, it's not working. And whoever is with you, you're kind of like, or even if you're doing the sound yourself, you have to worry about all of these things. And that's your stagecraft. That's part of the battle. Learning all that, learning what to happen if something goes wrong, or if you're, a guitar player or somebody breaks a string, or, and to keep the show going, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I've had lots of times where something technical has went wrong. Lots of even my live videos at home. So it's definitely going to be nice to have that kind of team around me someday, taking care of everything like that, so I can just worry about being a musician.
Yeah, for sure. I think, well, everybody likes that idea because, the more gear and more equipment you have to set up and look after and troubleshoot, it kind of gets in the way sometimes of singing and performing. So it's nice, obviously, when you go to a big concert and you're like, oh, Beyonce doesn't have to worry about this, and the Rolling Stones never fix a PA or a speaker. So let's talk about, obviously, when you were in Louisiana and you were, playing like music and everything. But did you do other things, or was music your main passion?
Music was definitely my main passion. I also was loving at the time. I was loving doing makeup, so I would do makeup for proms and homecomings and weddings. That was my other little side hustle. I helped my mom actually had a photography business, and I would go help her do that too. I had a job at Sonic as well.
Okay.
So like a lot of different random things that I would do. But Yeah, music has always been like first and foremost for me.
Yeah, and I see there obviously, as you call your mom is your mom, but she's also your momager. I saw you put that in
Oh,
one of your websites, and so that's quite interesting because with your background in beauty and makeup and this kind of thing, and then your mom's in photography, that's also a great skill to have for the area of work you're going into now more and more, where you have to do photo shoots and you're creating content. It's great to have that on your team, no?
for sure. I definitely agree with that. She has been giving me glamour shots since I was born. So so I definitely know how to do my makeup to match her photo shoots. We're actually having one this evening, another photo shoot. Yeah, for my upcoming single. So yeah, it's always been a blessing. It's super easy to be able to post on social media because she's always taking pictures of me.
Yeah, and because obviously your mom is managing you, and you obviously spend a lot of time together because of that. Is that one of those things that you've learned how to work together? Because it can be tricky working with family, and you can love someone dearly, but then when you're working together, they have different opinions and different ideas. And even, for example, it's the case of youth versus experience as well, where your mom can have ideas, and maybe she sees the bigger picture, and you're kind of going, oh no, I think it'd be better this way. And then you might say later, oh, maybe she knows what she's saying. So has that been an easy thing for you, or do you guys know how to give each other space when you need to?
It has been an issue at times, but after everything, I I listen to her. I listen to her, and she listens to me right back. Like we have a great way of communicating. None of us go unheard. We both try to express our ideas in the best way possible, to make sure that I'm not messing up or she's not messing up by saying we should do this thing. We really take a step back and just examine the situation and then make a decision. And we're like, sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's good. I mean, that's good to hear because, it can be one way or the other. And sometimes, as I said, working with someone close to you, it can be difficult. So, when did you guys kind of make the decision that, okay, mom's going to be the manager? Or did you try out different managers or different people and then say, oh no, I prefer working with mom? How did that kind of process happen?
Well, she like since the very beginning, since I first started making music um, and like especially writing, since I first started writing my own original music, she's really been there to push all my stuff, and she's just already assumed that position of a manager. So I never really had to say, "Hey, mom, will you be my manager?" Because she was already there. She was already that, like from the very beginning. But I have met people who have been my manager. They've just really taken me to a next step and helped me get to a next step. But Kim, my mom is Kim, and she definitely pushes me every single day, like the most hardcore manager ever. And heck yeah. And anytime somebody new comes into our life that's in the music business, she does more research on them than the FBI. And she's like, she's definitely on top of everything, like 100%. So I never really had to say, will you be my manager? Because she was just already that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose in retrospect to all moms, they are managers of sorts, and the thing is, for her, it was probably a clear decision. I want to look after my daughter's career and help her because obviously in the music business, there's lots of sharks, and you have to avoid these. But as you're a younger person coming up, it's harder to see them, and it's hard to see their motives. And what you can see is a great opportunity. Maybe your mom might say, well, hold on a second, maybe this is not what it seems, or it's too good to be true. And so it's good to have that in a way, because your mom is going to look out for your best interest more so than any manager you could bring in. I mean, that's kind of obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. It's definitely obvious. That's another reason why we are so independent. Because we have done so much research on the music business. I feel like I've been in the music business for 15 years because of how much people have tried to make me how much people have tried to make us jaded, I guess is the
I
word.
understand.
Um, there's so many different things that people can say to you, but there's only so many actions that people can prove, and my mom and I have made more headway in this business by ourselves. Like we've made so much progress in this business just in a couple years. So guess we'll just stick to that and see what happens just for the time being, unless
If it ain't broke, and the thing is, I think like that, you find a formula, because for every artist or performer or singer or whatever, it's a hard road, music. It's a very tough career, and there's been some of the best songwriters and talented artists, and they don't make it, or they don't make enough money to survive as musicians or singers or songwriters, and they have to go back to doing what they were doing. But for you, when you were in Branson, Missouri, and you kind of said, okay, where's the next step? Did Vegas seem like an obvious choice, or did some people say you should go to Vegas? How did that kind of thought decision, how did that work itself out?
So the very first time I even thought about Vegas, there was a producer on Facebook that I got in contact with, and he actually said, I think your voice would be perfect for these 2 songs that I wrote. Can you come fly down and get them recorded? And I was like, sure. So I went to Vegas and got those 2 songs recorded, and I stayed there for maybe 3-4 days. And I loved it. Like, we went on the Strip, and it was just beautiful weather, and it was just beautiful here, all in all. And so we got back to Missouri, and we looked at each other, and we were like, I miss Vegas. So all we did from there is pack our stuff and head to Vegas, and it's been fantastic.
Like, so you've been in Vegas throughout the pandemic, and it's kind of changed, and probably things closed down and they're opening up again and closing down. Everything's kind of like a roller coaster ride. But now that you've been in Vegas for a year or two nearly now, have you has it opened your eyes to the city in different ways that like tourists and stuff don't see? Because I remember the last time I was in Vegas, I think it was 2019, and it's a fantastic city, but it's a very touristic city, and it's one where people kind of come and lose it all and have a great weekend, and everybody wants to go back. They're like, oh, it's such a great city. But it's a different thing living there, obviously, because it's like LA a little bit too, where you have to find work, and you have to kind of you have to survive, and you have to do shows and everything. So the glitz and glamour can maybe wear off, and it's down to hard work then, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And there's also it's definitely about the hard work, putting in whenever, but the best thing about Vegas that I've realized is like the scenery and the outskirts of Vegas are just beautiful. There's a big mountain range by Vegas, and it's called Mount Charleston, and I go there all the time. Whenever I lose my creativeness for a minute, I'm like, I gotta go breathe, and I go out there, and it's just absolutely beautiful. You just gotta keep to yourself. You can't just go crazy every night, otherwise you probably shouldn't be living in Vegas if you're thinking about doing that anyway. This would be the worst place to do that at.
It's one of those places. I remember when me and my wife were there, and we went there, and we actually got married in Vegas. We did an American tour, and we got married in Vegas. But what was kind of sad, we pulled up at a petrol station or gas station on, just on the way into Vegas. And, when you're coming into Vegas and you see all the lights. And so we pulled in and got some gas. But there was a guy at the filling pumps, and he looked, well dressed and everything, but he was going around asking people for a dollar. Just, can you give me $1? And he was collecting dollars. And he said to us, I'm just trying to get home. He said, I lost all my money and everything. So I would say, for lots of, shops and gas stations, they see that all the time. People go there with a great idea and a great plan. And sometimes it's only for holidays, but for some people, it's maybe to go there and work and to make something of themselves. But like you said, you have to be a little bit disciplined, because if you want to party all the time, it's hard to balance the books, and it's hard to have money to party all the time. You want to work really hard. So you have to be able to discipline yourself, don't you?
Right, exactly. And I don't really spend lots of my time at the Strip. I like to kind of, Vegas is such a huge city that there's always like a new place that I haven't heard of, or a new road I've never been down. I'm like, when did I get there? And they're always adding on to it too. So I mean, yeah, you definitely have to be disciplined. I'm 20, so I can't do anything regardless. But I don't think I would if I could. I don't think I would go crazy. I like to keep my working mindset, and during the daytime too.
Well, next year or when you're 21, you can answer that question better.
Okay,
Because because if we spoke to you in a year's time, you'd be like, okay, now I'm 21, I see it in a different light. But I understand that's why, it's funny, actually. My daughter is 11, and I was talking to her the other day, and we were talking about, drinking and alcohol and these kind of things. And I was explaining to her, the thing is, adults make lots of bad decisions on alcohol and this thing. And we were talking about the age. She said, how old do you have to be to drink? And I said, well, in Europe, it's 18, But I said, in America, it's 21. And she was like, really? And I said, yeah, because they kind of, they have a different mindset. So the problem is that, for an 18-year-old European who's drinking, when they go to America, they're like, oh, God, you have to be 21 here. I don't actually know the law as regards foreign, like someone at 19 from Europe drinking in America, but I assume it's the same. But you can see for a lot of younger people, and especially if you're 19, 20 in Vegas, there's a lot of temptation. And I mean, obviously some people are just waiting for that day when they're 21, just to try it out and experiment, no?
Right. I can see that, definitely. Good thing I don't like alcohol. I've never been a fan. I went to the Bahamas like whenever I was 18, and you could drink in the Bahamas, so I drank, and it didn't feel good. I didn't like it at all, and I was like, okay, never again. And something I don't do. But there is lots of temptations here. You just got to keep your head on straight.
So obviously, Vegas during the pandemic, what was it like? Because I was trying to imagine myself. I saw a few pictures of the Strip being kind of empty and everything, but it must have been a bit surreal to see, those usually busy streets and the Strip and everything very quiet during the whole pandemic. No,
it was really strange. I had seen it, like I said, like I moved there a week after I went and visited. So that week that I went and visited, it was all booming. It was all crazy. It was insane. And then came here, and it was starting to slow down a little bit. And then there was nobody. The streets were completely empty. The lights were off. There was the Strip was dark. And it was so crazy because Vegas is the brightest city in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so I actually shot my music video for my very first music video, 15 Candles. That was shot.
Yes, I saw that you did it around Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic. So there was absolutely nobody on the Strip. There was like no cars, barely any people. Like it was really, really crazy. It was definitely weird to see.
And that's a really funny thing, because normally, let's say if you're filming videos or whatever, you say, let's go at 6 a.m, or once the sun comes up, let's go to the beach or let's go wherever, because there'll be nobody there. And then, you're kind of, you don't want people around, or you want less people. But during the pandemic, you're like, oh, we kind of need some people walking around. There's nobody here. We need to make it look like it's normal life.
That's what happened. But we were like, we looked at the street and we were like, it's so empty. It's so eerie. Like, it's just weird. Perfect for the video.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's your city for that night.
Yeah, exactly. We rented out Las Vegas for the night.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll pay the electricity bill tomorrow.
Oh,
so
God.
so the thing is then, like, on a more practical level, when you guys got there, and I mean, obviously, because you had been gigging in Louisiana and in Branson and Missouri, so when you got to Las Vegas, you probably had a plan to keep gigging and to get some gigs and stuff. But I'm sure a lot of things had shut down. So was that difficult to try and get work like that?
It was very difficult. I think I got like one live event that happened during the pandemic, and it was really, really tough because I did go from performing and getting used to being on stage. I'm just now starting, so I was really using that. I was using that time, and I was using it for that. But I really realized during the pandemic that it was time to start doing other things. So, like, I had 200 Instagram followers at that time, which is ridiculous. Now I'm at 9,700.
Wow! So you really put the work in.
Yeah, and I wrote about 150 songs during the pandemic.
Okay.
There's just so much behind the scenes work that I did, and I could keep doing since I was in the house. So I did live shows. I did fundraisers for Wounded Warrior Project. I wrote a bunch of songs, and I worked on my melodies, and now I have my iMac, which you are on, and it's part of my studio. So
brilliant.
Yeah, so I got a new little setup during the pandemic, and I can continue to make my demos. I can come up with melodies and record, and that's just such a useful tool to be able to have. And I'm glad that I spent that time where I couldn't go out and perform. I spent it on the behind the scenes work. I pushed myself. I sent my stuff where it needed to be sent. I sent billion emails. I just steady worked on it. Well, I mean, like, I couldn't do this, so I'll just do this to the best of my ability.
I think that's the thing. A lot of people realize you have to do something different because there's so many frustrated artists, musicians, singers that were stuck at home, and they're like, okay, so this is my studio now. This is my virtual gigs. This is my everything. Now, unfortunately, we had this kind of avalanche of live Facebook gigs and virtual gigs, some better than others, but it's a new stagecraft for people because they're learning how to perform in front of Zoom and so on, and how to do it differently, and how to work with a virtual audience. No?
Yeah. Working with a virtual audience is I was about to say equally as amazing, but there's nothing like the feeling of actually seeing these people's faces. But it's so cool to be able to connect with my fans all the way across the world, all the way across the country. They all can watch me in one place at one time. I just think it's a really cool thing. Like, you don't even have to move. You can just come join. You can come watch and sign in and say, hey, Chesney, and I'll be like, hey. Hey, all the way over there.
All the way over there. Yeah, there can be in any part. So let's go back to one thing you were mentioning there. I want to talk about your songwriting process and how you do it. But one thing I want to ask you there, going back to, working with people in the music industry. And we mentioned earlier, like, they're sharks, and, there's good people and bad people. But, when you were sending out all those emails, what kind of, for you and your mom, have you kind of quickly worked out a way when there's unscrupulous people, looking to knock at your door, and people saying, oh, come on into our stable of artists and so on? and saying, oh, bring your songs here. And, it's because it is a tricky road. I know I've done that myself in the past, where you'd have someone contact you and say, I really like that song or whatever. And then, you spend your time talking and kind of getting to know them, and then they give you this ridiculous offer with some stupid contract, and you're like, no, this is ridiculous. And they say, oh, well, that's the way it is. So I'm sure you've come across that a lot there.
Yeah. I've found that there's always somebody who's wanting to tear you down in the worst way. I've had lots of amazing opportunities, but I've also been in some pretty weird situations where I know that offer shouldn't be what it is, or I know that you're doing this, and that step really doesn't need to be taken to be able to go where I need to go. There's just there's definitely some tricky people in this business, but you just got to keep your eyes open. Just don't be deceived. It's really hard to try to figure out who's legit and who's not. But just take your time, research them, talk to them in person. I mean, it is definitely a tricky thing.
Yeah. But what you said there, being an independent artist, for a lot of people now, it's given them new confidence, and it's shown them that, hold on, maybe I don't need these people or this team, because nowadays, when you're an artist, you have to create so much content, and you have to do all the photography, and you have to do the design, you have to do everything. So in the past, for artists, it'd be like, oh, you're a great singer or a good songwriter, and yeah, we'll handle all the rest. And it seemed like then the value they give you as a record label, or as a manager even, it seems like it was worth it. But now when you're doing all of these things, you're kind of like, I don't think I need these people. I can do it on my own. And I need some people, but not as much as before.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's really hard to keep up with social media. I'm trying to grow my social media every single day. I post a bunch of times a day on my stories. I post pictures of me, post content of me singing covers, and little clips of my new things that are coming out. I just always try to keep everybody engaged, keep everybody focused on whatever's coming next, but it's really hard to do that, and to do my merch, and to do
the songwriting, everything,
my songwriting, to do all that, and still be a musician. Yeah, you have to practice. I gotta practice my vocals. I have to do all kinds of stuff, and then I have to do a bunch of Instagram and Facebook on top of that.
Yeah. Well, I find even, in the past, if I've released music or even with my podcast, you're like, okay, I have to do this and I have to edit and stuff. But then you're like, oh, the mountain of social media, and, you're trying to make something grow. But it's very easy to get social media burnout, where you're kind of like, you post 3 times a day or 4 times, and then somebody says on Instagram, you really need to post 7 times a day. And you're like, oh my God, 7 times. And then you have to create more content. You have to do all of the work around it. And it's maybe a 30-second clip, or it's a 3-minute clip or whatever. So it's so much work. And then you're like, oh, it's hard to get time to make music anymore.
Yeah. You feel like a content creator over a musician, or over over anything.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, I think what it is, when YouTubers came out and we saw them creating content, they weren't singing, maybe they were just talking about stuff and whatever. But now what's happened is musicians and artists have to be YouTubers, content creators, and then be singers and musicians as well. So it's nearly like double the work, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is, especially whenever I'm out of content and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? Got to think of something. And then I got to think of 3 more things after that for this week,
Yeah, of course. So let's move on a little to your songwriting then, because I was listening the other day to your songs, and and they're really nice, and they're catchy, as well. They've because nowadays, obviously, with with pop, and there's an awful lot of regeneration. A lot of artists are kind of ripping off other artists and older artists. And, I always have this kind of game where, with my daughter in the car and a new song comes on and it's Dua Lipa or something, and the song comes on and then I'm like, I know this melody. This melody's from something else. And then you find out when you dig a little deeper, it's a sampled thing from something else. So, in the past, samples were used cleverly, but now they're just blatantly using samples and using guitar lines as vocal melodies and everything. So there's a lot of plagiarism, and there's a too much sampling sometimes. But what I thought was really nice when I listened to your songs, Distracted, Come Alive, 15 Candles, all those, it's very nice pop music, and it's original. It's not. I wasn't listening to it going, oh, that's copying something else, or that's stealing from that. That was refreshing, because there's so much of that in the charts nowadays. And, it's not like you're kind of, I know sometimes younger artists might say, oh, that's older people, or, thinking, they're copying Led Zeppelin or whatever, It's not that. It's just when you know a melody and you hear it being used again, you like it to be done in a clever way. But if it's just blatantly through the whole song, you're like, okay, that's not an original song. How do you feel about that kind of thing?
Well, I thank you for saying what you said about my music and how it sounds original. I definitely try for that. I definitely try for that. I have lots of inspirations. I have plenty of inspirations in the music industry that I look up to, but I'm not for taking anybody's melodies or sampling and any of that stuff. I'd love to be able to show, hey, she kind of has a little bit of Billie Eilish, kind of has a little bit of this artist, but she's still Chesney. She's not going and taking all of Billie Eilish's choruses, melodies. So I appreciate that, and I definitely try for that. Definitely try to do that.
Yeah, because even when that single, the 2021 single "Come Alive," that was very catchy, and it was different as well. You're kind of going, this is it's a good, catchy, hooky pop song, it's thing. And just there, when you were saying about Billie Eilish, actually, it's funny because what tends to happen in the record industry and the music industry is that an artist breaks and they're different. There's something original about them. And then the first thing all the other record labels do is look for clones, look for somebody who's the same. It happened with Nirvana. It happened with Guns N' Roses. It happened with Katy Perry. Everybody who was, different in some way. They were always looking for the next Billie Eilish or the next, like sometimes when I hear this Olivia Rodriguez, I'm like, oh, she's good, but sometimes she's very like Billie Eilish. So I can imagine for you as an artist, even though you could be influenced by it, when you're recording and writing, you have to try not to fall into the trap of sounding too much like somebody, don't you?
And that's where I come into play, like my thoughts and my melodies in my head. I love taking inspiration from artists. I love taking, maybe even the way that their cadence or something. I like to throw some of that into my songs, but I'll never make it too obvious, like where you hear it and you're like, she's singing this person, she's doing this. But I love taking inspiration. I think that's what makes my music, what it is because I have inspiration from so many different artists all in one song, and I hear it in my head, and so I turn it into a Chesney song, but with inspiration.
Yeah, I actually meant to ask you that earlier when I was talking about your teenage years. What kind of music were you into? Once you started, like, obviously when you were younger, you probably had your favorites, but as you got into your teens more, what kind of bands or artists? Was it pop? Was it country? What kind of stuff did you like?
I liked pop and I liked R&B. So I listened to a lot of, especially when I was younger, I listened to a lot of Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, that type of music. But I started listening to The Weeknd and more upbeat, funky type of stuff like that. Now I am listening to Mac Miller. I'm not sure if
Okay.
you're familiar with him,
Yeah,
but
I know Mac Miller. Yeah, yeah.
he's definitely inspiring my next song. Like, he's definitely inspired my next song. I've listened to his albums, especially his one called Circles. I've listened to that from beginning to end in order several times, just trying to get a feel on Mac Miller. And it's so cool to hear him do what he does, and then like I put a spin on it, and it's so neat. Like, it's such a cool feeling to be able to do that yourself. Do something that you love to hear from somebody else. You can do it yourself.
Yeah, of course, because I mean, that's what's really for everybody. It doesn't matter what age or what kind of artist you are, whether it's pop, rock, metal, it doesn't matter. It's you are inspired by, bands or artists before you and even current bands. And it's great, to hear sometimes new artists and that are people, that still have kind of releasing music, and you say, that's really interesting what they did there. Now, unfortunately, the way music works is that by the time you hear a new style of music coming out or a new artist, and you're like, oh, that's very different, the cat is out of the bag then, because for artists who try to be like that, there are hundreds of other artists. So like that, when you're writing your songs, and as you said earlier, it's Chesney, that's you. That's, I think, what you have to stick to, isn't it? Because that's what's going to make you different. Because you can do a Billie Eilish cover, or you can do a Mac Miller cover, anything, but it's inspiration. It's like, even sometimes I'm listening to an artist, and I'm thinking, I could never do that song, or I could never write a song like they do, but they inspire you to write your own song and have your own version of yourself. No,
that's exactly what's happened. And I've gotten so much inspiration from Mac Miller. My brother actually passed away from an overdose in 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. When was that?
2016.
Oh, okay.
I was 15 years old, and I really struggled with that for a long time, thinking about what I could do better for him, what more I could have done for him. And
how old was your brother?
He was 23.
Okay.
Yeah, he was 23 and I was 15. And so I was his little sister, and I was in distraught, just continuously thinking about that. And I was thinking, if I keep having these negative thoughts, like what I could have done better, it's not going to make anything better. Like, it's not going to change. It's not going to change the fact that he's not here now. So why not take inspiration from these people who have been through the same thing as my brother has been through? And that's the beauty of listening to Mac Miller's albums, is because he talks about it so openly, and people shy away from talking about it, and it's not something to be glorified. I don't think. It's just something that definitely needs to be talked about, and he did that, and he definitely did it with such style and such flow that it totally inspired me, especially for my next release. It's 100% Mac Miller inspired, and I'm so excited to show people that side of me, because that's something that I wasn't even expecting to pull out of me, because I was really in the pop vibe, and then I just started listening to Mac more, and it's definitely helped me get my feelings from my brother out, and it's helped me just helped me.
Can I ask you, the song 15 Candles, when I listen to that, obviously the lyrics are, they're quite deep in it, and you're kind of like, for me, if I'm just being honest, and when I listened to it, I kind of was thinking it was like, maybe like your dad had gone, or I kind of got a vibe from it. But now now you told me the story with your brother, I was kind of like, that was around, you were 15 when he passed, no?
Yeah, I was 15 when my brother passed, but lots happened when I was 15.
Okay. So that song epitomizes lots of things.
Yeah, 15 Candles is about my father. 15 Candles.
Okay. I that's what I thought, but then I just thought when you said that about your brother. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So my dad was around for forever, until I was 12. My dad just left us, and I ended up seeing him on my 15th birthday. So 3 years had passed without him seeing me, and I was really nervous to see him, and it was actually my 15th birthday. And I had a court ordered session with the judge in Louisiana, and I walked into the room, and my dad is sitting there, and I said, "Hey, Dad, it's my birthday." And he looked at me, he went, "Hmm." And he didn't say anything to me, just turned around. And so that song, that was a really sad day for me because he's my dad, and I was really hoping that he would do the fatherly thing, but he didn't. And so that song is totally getting my feelings out about my dad. I was really nervous about releasing that one, especially releasing it first. I was like, okay, my dad's gonna see this and he's really gonna hate me now. But you know what? There's so many people who can relate to that song, and there's so many people who would listen to those lyrics and be like, dang, I really feel the same exact way about my dad. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out. It's gonna be my very first release, and everybody's gonna see it, and I don't care. And that's what happened. It's got almost 150,000 streams on Spotify. It's definitely my top song right now. It's been my top song since I put it out, and I've gotten so much good feedback from 15 Candles, from kids that are my age, from kids that are younger than me, even from grown men, like 60-year-old men who say, I struggled with daddy issues, and you just put it into words, and I really relate to it. So thank you. And that has made me feel so great.
Yeah. Well, you when you hear songs, like sometimes with pop songs, they have like a chorus and a verse, and there's a hook and everything. But sometimes maybe they're not that deep. They're just entertaining, and they keep you going, and it's a good groove. But then sometimes you'll hear a song that has deeper lyrics, and you're listening to it. And the great thing about music is that as a fan or just somebody who hears something once, you get an interpretation of what they're talking about. Now, for me, obviously, when I heard that song, and I was thinking like she's talking about her dad or something. But I mean, I think fair play to you. I commend you for that, because you had the bravery to take something negative that had happened to you and put it into a song and make it positive for other people, because lots of people had, as you said, daddy issues and things with their parents, and sometimes parents make mistakes and they never know how to come back and apologize for them. But it's nice that you were able to get it out. It was kind of like a form of therapy for you as well, I imagine.
Right. And music, all in all, has totally been a form of therapy for me. I think it's a form of therapy for a lot of musicians, whether they want to admit it or not. Just being able to hear something in your head, hear a melody in your head, being able to feel a feeling, and then being able to vocalize that feeling. There's no other feeling than actually having it out, like actually being able to say it, and having people give you feedback on it. It's like it was super nerve-wracking. I was really nervous to put that out, and then I did, and then I just got completely overwhelmed with positive energy. And that's something that I'm trying to do with like every aspect of my life. If there's something negative, I'm trying to find a way to flip it and make it positive, because going negative, like thinking negatively, you're only gonna manifest negative outcomes. You're not gonna move forward anymore if you just keep thinking, oh, maybe I should have done that a little bit harder. I'm so sad about that. Instead of thinking that way, you got to think, maybe I should have done that a little bit harder. I'm totally going to push myself a little bit harder next time. Like there's no other option. I'm not gonna not push myself harder, or I'm not gonna not write these lyrics that I thought in my head. I'm not gonna not release my song that I wrote with my feelings that so many other people can relate to. Oh.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And, you know, the great thing is when you do that the first time and you have that kind of brave moment when you write a song, because, you know, a lot of the time we write a song and it's in our bedroom or in the desert, wherever you may be, and it's for you, you know, and you're not sure if it's ever going to be for anyone. And I think lots of artists have those songs and they're tucked away in those secret drawers, you know, and they never take them out. But once you do, it's a great relief to put it out there because you see the effect it has on other people. And, you know, it's a great thing. That's the most amazing thing about music is that not only is it therapy for you or your family who went through that, but it's also therapy for other boys and girls or adults or whoever who went through that also. And they're like, wow, this describes the way I felt or the way I'm feeling at the moment. So I think that's the wonderful thing, like how artists can create something and make it for everybody, no?
Right. That's definitely the best acknowledgement to get, you know, for doing your music. It's better than an award. Whenever people say, you know, your music really touched me, that line right there that you wrote, I really felt that. You know, I felt that a long time ago, and I haven't heard anybody say that type of thing. You know, I've had people reach out to me and tell me that, and it's like, I'm so glad that I could make something with my voice, with my thoughts, and it also relates to you. You know, that's such a cool thing.
That's really nice and well done for doing that. So let's talk about your magic book of spells. I love that description you have, the magic book of spells. So you're like this little sorcerer, you know, with magic and music, you know. So with your magic book of spells, let's go back before we talk a bit about that, about your first song. So, you know, when you wrote your first song, what was it, like a complete song? Was it just a little melody? What was it?
I think my first song that I ever wrote, actually my first song that I ever wrote, I was probably like 13, and we had a piano in my house, and I sat down and I tapped out a few chords, and I wrote this quick little song, but I've never put it anywhere. Nobody's ever heard it. But my first actual written song was 15 Candles. And
oh, really?
Yeah, that was the first time that I really put my emotions into my songs, and that was the first time that I just let it all out. And it was my very first song ever. And you know, it's doing great. And I think that's such
wow.
Yeah. I actually wrote it as soon as we moved to Vegas. I remember sitting down on the couch writing it. I had helped my mom. My mom is also a songwriter. So
okay.
Along with Momagering, she also helps me write some of my songs, and she'll you know, throw out a line and I'll make a whole song from the line or something like that. And so that's what we were doing at the beginning, because she just likes to write. And so she would write down on a piece of paper, you know, her feelings, and I would take her feelings and put a little bit of my feelings in it. And then that's how we would come up with the song. So we did a couple of those before I wrote 15 Candles. But 15 Candles was written by myself. And in that time, it was just me, and it was just my feelings. And I think that's what really makes 15 Candles special is because, you know, it's straight from me, my very first song.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, I just think it's a really cool thing.
And how did because your mom, Kim, isn't that your mom's name? Yeah. Yeah. So hello, Kim, if you're out there somewhere. Well, so how did your mom feel about 15 Candles? Because obviously if it was a manager who wasn't, blood related to you or was thing, it might be different. They might say, oh, you have to release that. But there you have your mom who's part of the story. And for some mothers, they'd be like, no, no, don't say that on air or don't talk about that. So that was also, it was kind of, it affected her in a way too, didn't it?
Yeah. She went through some hardships with my father. I'm sure it was worse than my relationship with my father. So when I wrote that song, she felt it for me. She felt what I was saying, and she felt how important it was to me to be able to get those words out and to be able to use that as my therapy. And so she was fine with it. She was like, if you feel brave enough to do it, then you do it. That's I mean, it's up to you at this point. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And she was like,
I'm ready.
Right, let's do it. And so it was simple.
That was good, yeah. So let's talk about your actual process of songwriting. So now, your process has probably evolved. Like for a lot of people, it changes or they do it differently. But for you, do you lay down a melody or does a line come to you, when you're running or in the shower or whatever? Like where does that initial idea kind of come? Melody or lyrics more?
Usually if I like to take my time and listen to instrumentals. I like to listen to a beat first. And once I hear a beat, a melody will come. And then after the melody are the words. It really just depends on the day because my songwriting technique is like all over the place, honestly. If I come up with a melody in my head first, then I'll keep that melody and tell somebody like, listen, this is the type of beat that I need, you hearing it. And so I mean, it changes every day, but I really enjoy writing to instrumentals first. That's what I enjoy doing in songwriting. But sometimes, I mean, if there's a line that pops in my head, I'll just pull out my phone and voice memo it real quick, or I'll record something and I'll be like, okay, I got to get in the studio ASAP and remember this so I can have it on my head.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about, everybody has their phone or iPhone or whatever, and they have, the voice memos full of these ideas and little sketches and everything. I know I'm like that myself. I always laugh because, you're walking along sometimes and you get an idea and, you don't want to be like Frank Sinatra walking down the street. So you're like, you're humming, and then you come back to the phone like a week later and you're like, oh, I had that really good idea. And you listen to it and you're like, what was I saying? What was I mumbling about? Because maybe you were on the bus or so in the lift.
Yeah, I did that in my car one time. I like to drive sometimes with no music on at all, just me and my thoughts. And while I'm driving, sometimes, they'll pop in my head. And I did that one time and I got this fire melody in my head, and as soon as I got out of the car I played it back and the audio was all messed up and I completely forgot the melody. I'm like, that's not fine.
No, that's it. Yeah. But see, the thing I think, as long as you can get the main idea down, if you have, let's say, the guitar chords or the melody for you, then when you're writing, obviously, because you're, as you said, you have your new computer and your kind of studio there, but do you play certain instruments or you just dabble in different instruments? Do you use a guitar or piano kind of to come up with ideas? Okay. Very nice.
I got my little MIDI. I got that whenever I got my studio set up. I know how to play a few chords on the piano. I am not by any means saying that I can play a song or even play one of my songs on the piano. But I've tried guitar. I have a guitar in the corner over there, and it's been sitting in the corner for a while now. But
with time.
Yeah, with time. I've tried those things, but the thing that makes me most happy is just singing. So I mean, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah. And do you, so obviously now, with, when you get a song and you have the bare bones of it and the melody and everything, do you try and do more, production yourself at home? Do you, like, are you working in Logic or Pro Tools or GarageBand even? Do you kind of do as much as you can and then before you pass it to somebody else?
Yes. So I started off working in GarageBand, and I'd make my demos in GarageBand and try to mess with my MIDI and make a beat or whatever. But I ended up taking all these notes on YouTube on how to use Logic, and so I got
Okay, yes.
got Logic, and now I can make my demos exactly the way I want them to sound with my voice. I can easily send it to somebody and say, "This is what I want," and it's such a useful tool to be able to do that, because I was recording on my phone. Like, I would record whole songs on my phone, write a song and record the whole song, and then show somebody, and they're like, I'm like, no, it's so much better. I promise you, it's so much better than what you're hearing right now.
Yeah.
But it's such a useful tool, as an artist, to be able to record your own voice, and especially how you want your vocals to sound as an artist. That's a cool thing to get down in Logic.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, I'm laughing because we in Europe we say garage band and you say garage band, and but I started out using garage band when I was years ago, and when the Mac, because I've always used Macs, and but then obviously there's a time you progress to Logic, and then you're like, whoa, this is a bigger bag of tricks, more to learn. Like your learning curve is higher, but then you can get so much better results, and then you're like, wow, how can I ever work without this? And so I think the great thing now is, with YouTube and with all these courses and everything, you can learn so much about music production yourself, and you can you can say, okay, I can do as much of the song and as much of the production as I want, in order to make it sound like a good, decent song.
Right. It's definitely a useful tool. It really is. Especially like being a songwriter and coming up with new song ideas every day. It's just super easy to be able to send it to my producers, to be able to do all that stuff, and the transition from GarageBand to Logic is so easy. It's like basically the same format, but just with extra tools, with more useful things. So transition was super easy, but I'm still learning stuff. I've got so much to learn in Logic still. I've been working on it for like 6 months, but there's still a whole other 6, 7, 8 sheets of these that I probably need to fill.
Well, you have plenty of time, and you'll look back in 3 or 4 years and you'll be like, wow, I learned so much.
Yeah.
And just like writing songs in my bedroom, whatever, and then producing them. And I mean, the more finished you can have a song, it cuts down obviously on further costs going to producers and musicians and everything, because you have more work done. And nowadays there's such good technology, you can create songs easier and you have more loops to work with.
Right.
It's just really, really good. So let's talk about for a minute. So then when you have your songs, and you have them, written, and you work on them as well as you can, you send them to a producer and mixed and mastered and so on. But then I see there, obviously you've got some sync opportunities on Hulu and these kind of shows. So was that a hard thing to try and get your music kind of in front of these, TV people?
It definitely is, and that is my momager's job. She's all on top of that. She knows all about the syncing deals and everything, but there's so many opportunities to be found as an artist, that you just have to dig, and you just have to dig and dig and dig and dig, and then you'll find something, and it'll be a perfect fit for you, and it'll be such a great opportunity. I've been blessed with so many opportunities this far, and Thanks, Kimbo. Thanks, Kim. she's definitely.
Chesney and Kimbo. It sounds like a Las Vegas show.
That's funny. Chesney Kimbo. That's it.
Chesney and Kimbo, yeah. So, speaking of shows, you're also currently, I think you're doing it, or are you maybe rehearsing in theatre? So the Break the Silence extravaganza. You've done shows with that already, or you're still in rehearsal?
I've done shows with them. So I went to Reno in October. Went to Reno, Nevada, and I had a performance with Howard Hewitt and John from Troop, and Danny Glover was there, and he was a speaker at the fundraiser. It's actually a domestic violence fundraiser. It's called Break the Silence, and so I'm actually continuing the tour with them in April. We'll be in California. Yeah.
So explain to us what it like. Is it more like a conference or is it a show? What is it?
It's a show. It's a fundraiser, and it's like there's a couple of artists who come and perform, and there's a couple of speakers, and there's food. And last time
you always need food.
Oh yeah, soul food too.
Yeah,
and, last time I was there was like a model walk and all kinds of stuff. It was just a really cool opportunity, especially being able to meet Danny Glover. That was really cool. Yeah, I sang in front of him, and then he came over to me and he was dancing while I was singing, and he kissed me on the forehead, and he was like, "You got this," and I was like, "Oh, he's so cute." It was so cute. It was so nice.
And do you have aspirations, as well as being a singer, to ever be an actress, or is that something you've dabbled in the past?
It's definitely something that I would be interested in. I have actually looked at opportunities all over the internet, for something that would be close here, doing all any kind of acting opportunities. So I've gotten on this app called Backstage, where you can apply to all these different, TV shows or movies if they have a role that they need a 20-year-old girl that with crazy blonde hair and blue eyes, then I will press apply to that. And
yeah. I can be that. Yeah.
There you go. I'm always open for opportunities like that. I think that would be so cool.
Well, I think that's great, and I love your energy and enthusiasm, because you have to be always aware of the good and bad opportunities, but you have to be open to everything, and just be careful of the decisions you make, and read every contract. And people have a tendency to just sign the deal and then not look at the fine print. But with Kimbo or whatever, you can. She sounds like she's really watching your back, so that's really good. So for you, I saw obviously as well. You had you set up your record label, was it Zeiss or record labels?
Yeah.
And tell us about that. So is that was that something where you thought, okay, I'm an independent artist, and this is my record label, and I want to do this record label for myself and other people as well?
Right. So since we are so independent, and we've been independent in this business for 5 years now, we thought, what would it hurt to have a record label and to be able to put my songs under this record label, if it's only going to benefit me later on if these songs actually get bigger. So, I thought about it for a while, talked to Kimbo, and we decided to make Zeiss Entertainment, and we've really been pushing all my music through Zeiss, and yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well, because like, the thing about record labels as well, they're so easy to set up. I mean, because you are the record label, but it's what it can grow into. And as you said, the songs you have out already, as they grow, and and maybe in the future with you have other songs that become bigger, and it's all part of this package, Zeiss Records. So it's what that can prosper and become. And then obviously you can, you might see other artists in Las Vegas or New York or wherever, and you'd be like, wow, it'd be really cool to bring them into the label, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would definitely be cool. We've definitely gotten contacted by lots of talented people, lots of talented artists. Right now, we've been mainly just just kind of honing in on my business though, still just trying to get started and stuff.
Yeah, of
But
course, of course, of course.
once something actually happens, I would love to have a team, working on our record label, having other artists on a record label. I think that would be such an amazing thing to see Zeiss grow like that. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it will, because like, the foundation of anything like that is a good artist. So I mean, you're a good artist already, and you have good songs. And once you have more songs, and you bring out an albums, what'll start to happen then is, as the whole thing grows, you'll get other people interested, and then you'll also be inspired by new artists coming up, and you'll be like, okay, this person, this guy, this girl, whoever, should be on the team. Let's bring them into the fold. So I'm going to let you go in a second, but I just want to ask you, as regards your kind of ambitions and stuff for the next year or two, what kind of things are you focusing on?
I'm definitely focusing on getting more of my songs out, because I have so many that I definitely feel like they need to be heard. So I'm definitely going to work on that. I would love to do a tour, and I guess that's getting started within these 2 years, but I would love to tour to my top cities. I think that would be a really beneficial thing. Of course, touring would be beneficial. But there are some opportunities here in Vegas that I want to tackle too. There's Life is Beautiful Festival 2022. I'm trying all I can do to get into that festival. I just want to be performing on the stage. I went and I saw Life is Beautiful 2021 in September, and it was such an amazing experience. Billie Eilish was 20 feet away from me on stage. It was just beautiful. So I'm definitely trying to get in there. And who knows, maybe be signed, maybe I don't know. I'm just taking it day by day, and making the best out of every day. I don't really have a set plan. I just have an end goal.
Yes, well, that's good. Yeah, and that, I mean, that's the thing with goals. They can keep moving, and you're kind of chasing that goal. But that's a good thing as well, because you don't want to get to a place and say, okay, what now? You want to always be evolving, and you always want to be, making that next step, and the goal becomes bigger each time. And also, as well, what I nearly didn't mention, which is very important, is all your industry awards so far. I mean, I know you did the Michael Jackson. That was very interesting. The Bad cover, and Best Upcoming Artist at Las Vegas Music Awards, really good. And Female Artist of the Year for Indie Star Radio.
Yeah, and I won U.S. Female Vocalist of the Year Gold with ISSA, and I got nominated for Josie. And the World Songwriting Award, and yeah, crazy.
Wow. Next, it's Grammys, Ivor Novellos, MTV Awards.
Yeah.
Even yeah. I mean, every of those awards from your peers is a great achievement, because they show you're going in the right direction, and they're kind of somebody taking notice of you, which is a great thing.
Right. I'm so thankful for these awards. It's definitely showed, how much my fans have stepped up, and how much people are actually taking notice of my music, and it's such an amazing feeling. I'm gonna keep trying every day for another award, and for more people to say that they can relate to my music. Those are my two biggest things. I want people to be able to relate and acknowledge.
Wow. Yeah. Well, listen, Chesney, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I just want to say well done so far and everything you've done. You brought out some fabulous songs, very original, authentic, and in a kind of sea of people trying to copy other people, it's great to hear new artists who are true to themselves, and just kind of what they create stays as they envisioned and doesn't turn into just a copy of something else. So I want to commend you for that, and stay on that road you're on. And we will be watching and listening and seeing where everything takes you. And we will, we'd love to have you on the show again. And in the future, when things are bigger and brighter. So thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me on the Collective Whisper podcast. I'll definitely be back.
Chesney Claire, everybody. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Chesney. That was a really interesting interview, and we loved having you on all the way from Las Vegas. And thank you for, telling us about your career so far. And we know it's going to be a bigger and brighter star that's blossoming for you. So we wish you the best with everything, and well done so far on all your great achievements and all your awards. It's been fantastic. And as I said, we wish you the best. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to the show, and we hope you're enjoying it, and we hope you like the guests we're having for you. We'll try to make it as diverse as possible, all types of different guests. And if you'd like to support the show, you can support us on Patreon, or you can support us even just by liking and following and, reviewing the podcast. We would really appreciate that. So until the next time, look after yourself, look after your family, take care of everybody, take care of everything. My name is Simon Kay. This is the Collective Whisper podcast. Bye-bye.